Have you ever wondered where the problems in the world today would exist if we had deeper connection to ourselves, others, and the environment and acted from that place? Welcome to the Conscious Action Podcast with your host, Berneman, who believe that connection is the key to taking conscious action as individuals and creating a better world. We are here to raise awareness and inspire meaningful action by sharing stories, knowledge, and conversations with thought leaders and change makers. From sustainability to well-being and everything related to conscious living, our mission is to empower you to be the change that you want to see in the world. Welcome everyone to a new episode of the Conscious Action Podcast. I am Berneman, your host, and I have the pleasure to be joined all the way from Southwest Australia by Rhiannon Heins. Thank you so much for being here, for taking the time to have this, what I know is going to be a wonderful conversation. And so for everyone that is listening and watching us, can you share a little bit about you and your journey?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Brian. Thanks so much for having me. It's beautiful to be here. And yeah, I suppose whenever I think of my journey, I always am taken right back to my very early 20s, maybe when I was about 20, because I was lucky enough to have my awakening at a very early age. But at age 20, I was deeply depressed and really suffering. I was really struggling with life, with the system that I thought I had to operate in. And I, was ticking all the boxes because I was quite a high achiever. So I, got a fiance really young, and I bought a house really young, and I had a job. And I remember one day I was driving to work in the city with my fiance, and I said, isn't this crazy? Like, just in these weird little cars, driving to these weird little rooms where we look at the screen and we type all these things, and then we drive back in our little cars. And he was like, what are you talking about? And I was just could see the ludicrousy of it all, but I didn't know that there was an alternative to it. But I suppose in my pondering of the ludicrousy, the divine was listening, and I was being shown the antidote, I suppose, to it all. And that's when I started to dive into yoga and meditation in a very sort of gentle and not very deeply spiritual way at the beginning. But it started to change me. Like, my practice of presence in my early 20s started to change me. And very quickly, my life started to change. I left that relationship. I found a job that challenged me and opened me, and that was to start lecturing in remedial massage, which was my qualification. So at age 22, I got this lecturing job in remedial massage, and I was challenged. Oh, I was challenged so deeply by that job, to have to stand up and speak to people, to even consider myself worthy enough to do that job. Each day was like a death, a complete death. But in a really rapid period, I became free. I stopped caring. Day by day, I stopped caring how the students perceived or received me. And I just started speaking. I just started doing my job. And then I had another kind of quantum leap upwards. So then my journey of yoga led me to teach yoga, led me to open a studio, another studio, teach yoga teacher trainings. But really, my passion from this very young age, in my early 20s, was to meditate. It was to meditate. That was where I found my most solace, my most peace. And when I quietened my mind, I noticed that a different aspect of my mind would start speaking to me. And that was my higher mind. That was my God aspect. That was my connection to source. And the more I practiced this tool, the more it started clarifying and crystallizing, and the messages became really galactic and intended for all of humanity. So it was this journey of channeling and meditating alongside my work evolution that really led me to where I am now. because my work as a remedial massage therapist turned into my sort of channeled hands-on body work. My work as a teacher turned into these channeled teachings that I now bring forth today. And so, yeah, that's where I am now, is that I'm teaching what I know. I'm teaching energy workers and just anyone that is ready to step into their full potency, their full service. I'm teaching how we can connect to that higher mind and dissolve the lower mind, dissolve the voice of self-doubt, so that we can serve either in a one-on-one or a group setting with the full potency of our truth. And yeah, it's been a long journey to get there, but that's where I am now. And
Beautiful.
and what I teach now is called the Intuitive Rebirth energy work method. And my work as a channel has now evolved to me releasing in October last year my channeled book, The Keepers of the Light Codes. So that's a little insight into me.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. It's always really interesting when, at least for me, understanding our journeys and understanding, as we see a lot of times, there's, a lot of times when I see, and this happens in general, when we see someone where they are, sometimes we don't see all of their journey. We don't see everything that they went through. We don't see what led them to this moment. And I feel always it's so powerful to be able to hear the stories and to share this, because this enables us to actually do that, to understand, like, this is not the trying to get somewhere. This is about understanding all of the different levels, all of the different layers, all of the different ways that we are going on our own path. And it's always so beautiful to hear that, and to hear, how we're able to evolve, and how we're able to change, and how we're able to create that for ourselves. And I find it really interesting, and I want to get your take on this. My own journey started a lot with the body, coming back to the body, and that somatic practices, and through their understanding energy, and that is what evolved to me being able to work a lot with energy. What has that was that true for you? And as well, what is the role of the somatic experience for those that now, in a sense, you are sharing and guiding through these transformations?
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Brian. Like the coming into my body was huge, because I was completely disassociated. And as I said, like that, in those early times of my awakening, yoga was a huge anchor for me. And I found at the beginning yoga so frustrating. I found it so hard. And I just like thought I just wanted to laugh. Like the idea of being present with like the pain of my tightness in my body, being present with the sensations, was just like, why would I want to do that? And now I genuinely find bliss in the observation of the pain. And it's like, when we can stop resisting the body, that is like where the breakthrough lives. It's in the complete acceptance of everything, particularly the body. And I feel that so many people do have their awakening via the gateway of the body in various ways. Like so many people get sick, they're pushed into a hospital bed where they have to rest, and there they have to lose the resistance that they have to the body. They have to come into complete acceptance of the pain. And the same through yoga, it often happens, and the same through the change of diet. Like change of diet is, it's not movement, but it is a huge shift in the relationship to the physical body. When someone all of a sudden thinks, I'm going to stop abusing myself with this food, and I'm going to start to eat this way, whether it's paleo, vegan, it doesn't really matter. It's a shift in consciousness that says I love me, and I feel the effects of every thought, action that I take. I feel the effects in my body. My body responds in love, and I give to my body in love.
Mm.
So yeah, that I feel is the gateway to understanding energy. It's all through the body. It's all through the body. And that is also the gateway to channeling as well. It's all through the body. When our body is open, that's when we channel. Like when we're learning how to do energy work on one another, when the body is open, we know what the other person is experiencing. We know where they're holding energy, and we can only have that connected divine experience when we've stopped resisting the body. And that journey is going to come in many different forms for everybody.
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. It's a really interesting thing as I shared with my own experience. One of the biggest shifts as well that happened for me was when I started to be more and more connected to my body, as well, the shift of the understanding of what was actually happening in terms of, you were using the word pain as an example. How am I relating to that word? Is this something that I want to, push away? Or is this something that I can actually go beyond the label of this is pain and go in and actually, as you were saying, allow sensations, allowing the experience, because then that is what allows the movement of energy. And that's where we get to being able to heal ourselves and then to support others through energy.
Totally. I totally agree. And this is all very fresh in my mind, these beautiful teachings, because I just got back from our retreat. But in the retreat, we're teaching energy work. So we're teaching a whole heap of skills and tools. But I said there's really only one thing that heals, and it's loving awareness. That's the only thing that heals. And we can bring loving awareness in through the breath, through hands-on touch. We can bring it in through a shift of our understanding. It doesn't matter what it is, but loving awareness is what transforms the energy. Because once you find that loving awareness, changing your perception of the word pain, changing the way you relate to what's going on in your body, once you really deeply find that loving awareness, then the lesson is done. The lesson is done. And whatever is there transmutes into a new expression.
Yes, yes, yes. I love that. And I want to go back to this later on to return now to, channeling. There's many, many different beings that have awakened throughout, time to being able to understand how to be a channel. And I would love to know more about your experience in terms of were you when it started to happen? Was it consciously doing that? Did it start to happen? And what were you channeling? And how has it been for you?
Yeah, beautiful. I love speaking about channeling because I feel it's part of my mission is to take the word channeling right off the pedestal and anchor it into every single person's awareness around what they can actually do and who they are. Like, as human beings, we are so superhuman. Like, our abilities are astounding, and we all have the capacity to channel. In fact, we are all intended to channel for clarity and guidance. And some people, like myself, have known this and therefore have actively worked to cultivate it, and therefore we do things like write books and talk about it, but only to initiate everyone to know, like, this is everyone's birthright. I'm like, there's nothing special about channeling. This is everybody's birthright. And like what we spoke about, Brian, like, it's about firstly coming into the body. It's in the body. And once your body is open, truly open, then you start to access the universe inside yourself, the void of infinity inside yourself. It's not outside of yourself, it's inside of yourself. And in that space, in that internal vastness, that internal blackness, you can access everything. But obviously, you can only get there if your body is open. And your body becomes open by dropping the resistance, as we've spoken about, by doing the work where you cry, where you acknowledge, where you allow whatever needs to arise. It's by doing that deep healing work and loving yourself that your body becomes open. You start to access the vastness of infinity inside yourself. So this might sound like pretty abstract, but I can later on really break it down to how simple it is. So I started to realize that I was like, I knew what people were going to say before they said it. And people were talking about, things like deja vu and husbands and wives finishing each other's sentences. Like, what is that? What is that innate intelligence that allows us to just know? And can we start to cultivate it more? And I feel as soon as we start to ask these provoking questions, Source listens. And I've always asked provoking questions. I've always asked, how do I become more psychic? How do I start to see? How do I start to have these clairvoyant visions? And just from the asking, you will always receive when your body is open and you're receptive. So yeah, I started to notice that I was getting really good at just like having hunches, having feelings. This is like in my early 20s again. And then I started to buy things like tarot cards and I started to play with them. I didn't connect to the books, so I didn't relate to the book, so I didn't use the book. So I would just draw the cards and I would look at the pictures and like feel the pictures, and then I'd like a little voice in my head, but it was just my mind, like my higher mind. It just sounded like me thinking, but it was crystal, would say like, there's going to be a great opportunity coming in a few months or something. And I'd be like, what? That can't be true. But I would write it down. And then I started to trust. I started to say, okay, I'm going to just trust no matter what. Whatever comes through, I'm going to believe it fully. And that's when it went to the next level, because the trust piece is the gateway. And then I started to channel for everything. What way shall I go to drive to the shops? Go left here. And I started to do it for everything. And I trusted every intuitive hunch like it was like the wisdom of the Bible. It was like I trusted everything. And then it started to get louder and louder and louder. And that is literally it. And because it's just so fun, then I would just spend time writing, and then a book came through. And then I would just, spend time asking how I can deepen my work. And then the Intuitive Rebirth way came through. But everyone has the capacity to channel in their own way. And it's going to radically transform the way you move through your life.
Beautiful. Beautiful. You know that as you're sharing that, there's a piece there that I would like to talk about, that is, in my own experience, since I started my own journey, I realized that the way that I connected and I channeled, and I, in a sense, been able to interpret that is through my feelings. It's been, I feel it, as you were saying, do I turn right here or do I turn left? And I get the feeling and I know how to use that and then go to that direction. Or that's what I use when I'm doing a lot of healing work with a lot of the people that I work with. And this is just to, to understand, as you were saying, we have different capabilities at different moments, and we can open to more, and we can open to more, and we can ask, because this is just my experience. Everything is out there. It's me, the one that is either not open or not listening or not asking for that. Because if I don't ask, then why would perhaps something come? So, and this is my experience in terms of the different ways that we have the capabilities for understanding or for being able to cognize or to feel into things. And for me, one of the things that I would love for you to unpack, and if you'd like to share anything on top of what I just said, is about intuition.
Yeah. Yeah, I fully agree. I fully agree. It's the feeling is step one. Like, if you start listening to those feelings, then, source, the divine God knows, okay, they're listening. We'll give them some more, but you're not going to get more until you listen to what you've got. No way. You're not going to become suddenly super clairvoyant if you're denying, the gentle whispers of your body telling you to change. And yeah, the feeling body is everything. And it's so rejected in our society. Like, it's given names like depression or anxiety. How could we give energy such a defining name when it's energy allowing us, energy arising, provoking the opportunity to heal or provoking the opportunity to take a huge leap forward in a new direction? So, and it comes back to that non-resistance of pain again, because often at the start of our intuitive journey, what we need to feel in order to make change when we're quite numb is going to be huge. If we're numbing ourselves, not feeling, denying, it's like we're going to have to be almost hit by a bus to make change. And like, this is what happened to me in my early 20s. Like, I was so, just for I just go full honesty here. This is what happened. I was so devoted to like my best friend, fiance. I loved him so much, but he was my best friend. I knew there wasn't like, it wasn't romantically explosive, but I was such like a good girl, and I had an affair with my boss. And it destroyed me. Like, I don't know if your listeners have ever felt guilt, where it is just like you feel that you're not worthy of life. That's what I experienced. So I had to break up. That was the only thing that would ever guide me to break up with him, was the complete unworthiness of his love. And in that feeling where I was so unworthy of his love that I needed to die, that provoked me to move out of that relationship. But I listened. And then the next hunch, the next emotional pain that was calling me to action was less. And I listened. And the next one is less and less. And now I can ask, when I'm at a fork in the road, a crossroad, I can just ask, like, oh, I just feel into option A and option B. Which one brings more pleasure, like lasting pleasure to my body? Maybe it's option B. Maybe option B is terrifying, but it still feels like lasting pleasure. And then I go that way. So intuition does come through the feeling for sure. And your body, like your emotions, your energy is constantly telling you how to live a more divine life. And you're never going to take steps towards that more divine life if you deny what the energy within is trying to show you. And it's as simple as that. It's all the same. It's all the same.
Thank you for sharing that. As you were saying that, is that, in your own experience, part of that rebirth in this life? As you are saying that intuitive rebirth, is that, when you're getting to those type of experiences, or any type of experience that is like, well, I'm at a stage where I need a transmutation or a transition, a change, is that the rebirth?
Yeah, for sure. Like for me then, that was a huge one. That was the real like dark night of the soul, as they say. And even
Mm.
if you look at photos of me from like age 22 to 24, I don't know how, but I like weigh 10 kilos less. I never tried, but my face is different. I changed and it was a rebirth for sure. But then as I start to like live in the more and more energetic realms and I start to understand the subtleties all around me and within me, the rebirths don't end, but they're almost continual. Like what we just spoke about before our call, Brian. It's like after the retreat, I've had to like, rethink, re-understand who I am and what this world is. Every every up leveling, everything falls apart and rebuilds to something more whole and more complete. And the rebirth is more divine and easier, but it's still a rebirth.
Mm.
It's continual.
Yeah, and I want to touch on that to see in my own experience, the times that we're in now, as challenging as there might be on some levels, there's such a shift, such an opportunity energetically to make these changes, to actually ride that wave. And as you're saying, it's so much easier for this new rebirth or quantum leaps or however we want to call them to actually understand the importance of this time in making these changes for ourselves and for, just in general as well.
Yeah, it's the best time ever. It's the best time ever. And like, yeah, it's a crazy time on when you look at the news and when you look at what's been going on the last few years, it's like, what the hell? But anyone that I know that is committed to honoring their truth, life has got better. Everyone I know, life has got better.
Mm.
Is that the same for you?
Yes, and I think that when the mind gets in the way for some people and that I work with, when the mind gets in the way, it's like, like everything is changing, and mm, but in their heart, everything is good, like everything is positive. And I mean, and what ends up happening, it's like, it's so good and so beautiful because yes, then, they are aligned, they are actually in their own truth, as you're saying. So it's a beautiful experience to be able to understand the changes that are happening now and how we start to connect even more deeper to ourselves and to the energy and to what's available, and how, at least for me, how as light beings or light workers, or however we want to call anyone that is working with energy or within the space, is how we are co-creating these changes and we are amplifying it by doing this.
Yeah, it's so exciting. Yeah, I just feel like anyone who's listening to your podcast, like, come on, if you're listening to this, you know what's going on. So, like, all of your listeners, like, I would say at some point recently, the last few years, have been seated with a vision, like an idea that challenges their existing norm. Maybe the idea is to move somewhere radical, move onto land, do things differently, to step up in work, to do a new course, to dive into some sort of spiritual practice. It doesn't matter what it is, but everybody has been seeded with a divine vision. And everyone's vision is going to be unique. But if your vision lights you up, terrifies, and excites you all at the same time, you know it's seeded to you by the divine. And you know that your pursuit of that vision is how you assist in the anchoring of heaven on earth. And it's as simple as that. And all you need to do to pursue that vision is hold it every day. Just like not all day, every day, be present, but when you're in the shower or whatever, like let the vision come and let it excite you and like, oh yeah, that would be so good. like lose yourself in the vision every now and then just ask, like, what do I need to do today? What do I need to do today? And that's it. The rest is done. The rest is done. You're in alignment. You're anchoring heaven on earth just by doing that every single day. And collectively, we all hold a piece of the puzzle. Like my husband is obsessed with growing vegetables, obsessed with growing like organic vegetables. He just watches YouTube all the time, like how to grow the perfect tomato. It lights him up so much. And then there's my work, which is so like the opposite of growing vegetables, so energetic and so cosmic. But it's like we're fulfilling our role in the anchoring of heaven on earth. And once you're fulfilling your role, once you're doing your piece, living your vision, and the vision doesn't have to be wholly manifested, you can just be connected to it energetically, then trust that you're living your vision. Once you're there, then you're in heaven. You're in a new earth. You're in a new paradigm because your energy is there. And it's only a matter of time before the entire collective is there with you. And you will see at the shops, you will see on the street the people who are in their heaven on earth, because they will be radiating and they will see you too, and your eyes will meet and there will be like an energy, a unity energy. And no one's getting left behind. Everyone's coming, and you just got to do what feels good and what lights you up.
Yes, beautiful. I would love, I have two questions. I'm going to post them together just so that I don't forget. I would love to get your take on love. You mentioned this earlier. Love, what does it mean in a sense, and how, what's its role? And then the other, after you answered that, if you can share a little bit about your book.
Oh yeah. Wow, love. I'm gonna draw from my retreat again, just to give everybody an example, a feeling, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the first day of the retreat, everyone was scared. Some people were excited, but we sat in circle. People's shoulders were hunched. Their minds were running like, who's going to be my friend here? Do I belong? Like all the stories. There you could feel like as much as everyone was trying to hold each other and be non-judgmental, there was the monkey minds were creating all these stories in the circle. And there were smiles of warmth, which is the start of love.
Mm-hmm.
But we weren't in the energy of true unconditional love yet. And then we went into a deep process where we invited that resistance into the space. We invited the judgment of the experience. We invited the fear. We invited it all into the space. And we allowed everyone allowed themselves, but everyone went into it. They breathed into it. The worthiness to be in the space. Am I worthy? They breathed into that unworthiness. And we just played the drum, we sang, and everyone just felt all that charge that was in the space. And then what happened was they cried, they roared, they really roared, they really cried. We screamed, we laughed, everyone's face was wet, covered in snot. Everyone's beautifully put together hair was all disheveled. Half boobs were poking out. There was a rawness and there was a vulnerability. And we all held the space for each other. And then we were still in circle and everyone opened their eyes and looked at each other and kind of like with these vulnerable, loving eyes, looked at each other and laughed, and we saw each other. There was no need to be perfect. And then the energy lifted. It went all sparkly. Everyone's heart was open. Everyone was seeing each other, and that was love. That was love. Like nothing had changed about the situation. We were all still sitting in circles, same people. But there was no pretense. There was no walls. There was no mind. And everyone just accepted each other, saw each other, got each other so deeply as fellow humanity. And that was love. And it doesn't matter the relationship or the dynamic, the energy is the same, like that's how, when I love my children like that, and I see them as just these like screaming, roaring little souls who are so frustrated by not getting a cookie, or when I love my husband and I just see him fully, like it's the same energy. It's the same energy. And you can bring that energy anywhere. You can bring it into the supermarket if you can. You can try. You can smile at strangers. That's love when it comes from that space of just seeing them, like when you just see them. And that is the energy that is going to unify humanity, stop the bullshit. That is the energy. It's love is what unites us in oneness, but it's also what unites us to source. Because when we're in that energy of love, seeing and feeling each other, and we get that gold dust, that shimmer of energy, that's God saying, you're in that energy of love and I love you.
So beautiful. I feel a lot of times people connect with the word love differently, and there's a lot of different kinds of love, let's say. And I believe, if I interpret correctly what you're saying, you're talking about that unconditional love, that love that is perhaps not that romantic love, which can be part of that, but it's the one that is beyond. It's the one of recognizing, as you're saying, as I look at you, I can recognize, that wholeness, that perfect being, that, goddess or God, whatever we want to call it. And I think that is the beautiful thing of being able to go, as you're saying, down the street and just look at someone in the eyes, a stranger, and being able to feel that, whether I share it with them verbally or anything, that might be a different, experience, because they are strangers and perhaps it will be a little bit weird to say something like that. But the feeling, as you're saying, going to the middle of a public space as a supermarket, and being able to feel that love and to share it and to spread it, and how beautiful it is when others start to notice it. I get this a lot of times when I use a lot of co-working spaces, and usually what ends up happening is that someone that doesn't know me, and if they are super stressed out that day, they just come and they sit next to me. They have no idea what I'm doing. They have no idea who I am. And there's a recognition that there's something there. And I feel like this is part of that, is that love.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah.
And Rhiannon, yeah, sure.
That's service as well. Sorry, Brian. That's service, isn't it? Sometimes we over glamorize like our purpose or our service, but like, is there anything more purposeful and beautiful than that? Like, than that experience that you had, a stranger coming into your field just to receive your energy of love.
Yes. And like as you're saying, I'm all of the time, and this is one of the things for me, is what I'm doing. Yes, I'm, as I think that you're doing, you're sharing gifts and you're sharing medicine, and at the same time, the most important thing is within my being that, staying in that energy, and just allowing in any single moment whatever needs to happen as that recognition from someone else is, I'm just being, and I'm staying aligned, and I'm staying open, and that's in a sense, what I'm here doing.
Yeah, exactly. And like, how easy then is it to do everything from that space? How easy is it to have this conversation from this space, to teach, say, whatever you teach, to teach a yoga class from that space? It's like, when you're that connected, to source because you're holding the energy of love, there's no effort. Everything is done. You're just so taken care of.
Yes, 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 yes. And Rhiannon, I would love to a little bit diving into your book, into the Keepers of the Light Codes. There's a lot of people that perhaps don't know what light codes are as well. So I would love for you to share a little bit about the book and about, you know, what would bring benefit to people reading it.
Yeah. So the Keepers of the Light Codes, it's channeled. So I do a lot of writing, but this book I wrote differently in that I was a real purist. You know, anytime I doubted whether a sentence, my mind was in the way, I just deleted it and started again. So I was like a real purist with this book, channeling it. And the interesting thing about it is like that it challenges me. Like as I was writing it, I was like, that's not right. And then I would go through and read it and be like, or is that right? Is that right? Because I feel that this book is speaking to a more ascended collective humanity. So I think in us reading it now, it's helping us like take another, as you say, like a quantum leap, a rebirth. As we read it now, it's bringing us up to speed quicker. But a light code, a code is anything, like it sounds fancy. It's not. It's just any it's a vibration of elevated wisdom that's going to land in your field for a deeper understanding of truth. And it doesn't matter. Yeah, it's just that's a light code, but it's an upgrade. It's the same that we've been speaking about this whole conversation, different term. But the book, wow, it's inviting us to bring in a whole new understanding of healing. And after channeling it, I've brought a lot of these teachings into my work for Intuitive Rebirth and these energy work teachings. Because I suppose what the book is a journey towards understanding is that if linear time isn't real, and it's not, and you're a multi-dimensional being who's choosing to experience this reality now by choice, then your healing journey, your ascension journey, the term journey cannot be linear. So then to think to myself, I will teach yoga when I am more qualified. I will be a healer when I am more healed. Then you're pushing a version of you forward and separating it through the false notion of linear time. So if all of you exists now, then your most healed and ascended version of you exists now. And you can choose, you can invite in, you can ask to be met in that energy now. And you can anchor it in now. And this isn't bypass. You can't bypass anything when you do this. Because in order for you to truly anchor in the healed and complete version of yourself now, then anything that is not that will instantly arise for transmutation. So the channeled lessons are inviting us to completely shift our understanding of ourselves, to fast track our mastery, to claim our mastery now, to claim our wholeness, our completeness, our absolute ascension, our realization, to claim it all now. And that's an energetic choice. You have to bring all of you on board, your mind, your body, your energy, bring it all on board to claim that. And then you will be taken on a fast track journey of transmuting anything that is not that. So the book is like a series of lessons and initiations that are energetically working on the resistance to that, because we all hold resistance to that. Like, you know, when even as I'm saying that, maybe there's the little thought that's like, oh, I don't know, or the little part of the body that's like, I don't believe that. So the book is like, it's energy work in a book, working on the layers of resistance that we hold to that notion. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. You know, I would yeah, it's there's so much in what you said that I think that it's so interesting that I feel like if you're listening to this, go get the book, get the experience, and see what that upgrade is for you. So saying that, Rhiannon, for anybody that is resonating with you and your message, where can they find you? How can they work with you? I know that there's a new retreat as well that is happening for those that are listening to this before it. What can you share?
Yeah, I'll share the retreat first because it's the one that's biggest in my heart. That's our Intuitive Rebirth practitioner training in Bali in May. So we still have some spots left. We only released it like as we speak now, like about a week ago. And it's sold really quickly, but you don't have to be an energy worker to want to come. You just have to have resonance, because if you just trust that what you're going to receive is what you need, if you have the resonance and the calling to be there, then you need to be there. So yeah, it's a huge transformational week held by the container of energy work. So the best way to find me is on Instagram. So it's Rhiannon Heins on Instagram. But you can also go to rhiannonheins.com and you'll see all the offerings. And yeah, if you Google the Keepers of the Light codes, you can choose where you want to get that from. And the last one is that you can also do the Intuitive Rebirth practitioner training in like an online delivery. And all the details for that are on my Instagram and on my website as well.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And for everyone listening, this is May 2023. Just in case that you're listening to this in 2024, 2025. So yes, just to know that. And I will put all of the links in the comments and the show notes so that it's easier for everyone to find it. Lastly, before we go, I would love to know, what is the one thing that you wish everyone knew?
Wow, the thing that flashes into my mind, and it's also going to bring back to what we spoke about in channeling, is that, may I just like guide something for a couple of minutes? Is that okay? Okay, great. So if you're driving, listening to this, then definitely keep your eyes open. Otherwise, if you close your eyes, then, and you feel into your chest. So the covering of your chest, the ribs, the skin. And then come into the internal space within the chest, the internal cavernous void within the upper chest. So if you start to feel and see and sense the internal cavernous void within the chest, you will see that there's a darkness there, a blackness perhaps. And if you allow your awareness to dissolve the boundary that is your chest, the chest walls, allow that to dissolve and follow the blackness, you'll see that the blackness of all of infinity lives within your chest. And now you've arrived at the universe within yourself. And as you hold your awareness there and you breathe there, you can ask a question to that space. For my highest good, I would love to know. And then wait for an answer. And even if just one word comes through, trust it as though it's the Bible. Even if just one feeling comes through, trust it as though it's the Bible. And keep doing it. And watch how your psychic activation is going to come from that cosmic void, your intuitive activation, your gateway to the best meditation you've ever experienced. It all happens there. So that's how I would like to finish, is just with that little practice.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you so much for sharing this conversation with me and for everything that you're bringing into this world. So as I said, for everyone that is resonating, check it out. Go and check out all of the links. Check out the book, as you shared earlier, with all channels as well. So keep on practicing that, and if you feel like you need some of that extra support, go and check out the trainings and the courses. So yes, I think that we're going to bring this to an end. So once again, thank you very much for sharing this time with me.
Thanks so much, Brian. It's been really, really beautiful conversation. Thanks to your listeners for being here.
Yes, thank you everyone for listening. As always, if anything resonated with you, if anything that you'd like to comment or share, please do so anywhere that you're finding this episode. For us, this is goodbye, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
What did you like the most about this episode? Take a moment to think about what change you can make in your life today.
Share your conscious action on social media using #ConsciousAction and tagging @ConsciousActionNZ so we can celebrate your impact on the world and create a ripple effect.
One easy action we would love for you to take right now is to share, like, and subscribe to this podcast. This will help us get these messages out into the world and inspire more people to take conscious action in their own lives, contributing to the better world we hope for.